Senators, before the House was suspended, we were on motion number 2, Public Finance Management Act, resolution of Parliament authorizing the Minister of Finance to borrow for capital or current expenditure of government. Leader of Opposition Business.
Madam President, if you don't mind, I'll remain in my seat for this. Madam President, I rise to add just a few words to the debate on, or the motion presented by the Leader of Government Business. I think this morning it probably has been a very interesting tone set, and it's probably because of the spirit within which we've chosen to contribute. And I'd like to encourage that. It's very good for the Senate. Madam President, the idea of borrowing, and in this case, not new borrowing, as was stated correctly by Leader of Government Business, but merely overdraft facility, is in itself not always an issue that creates any problem for anyone, because we all know that it has become an accepted norm that governments will borrow. But I suspect, Madam President, one of the issues that we can have when we come to the Parliament with a resolution like this one is that the context within which we've operated can be problematic for us as a Parliament. Because the people have developed a certain expectation, or they've developed a certain attitude towards what has been happening before. Something like this piece of this amendment that, as we have correctly stated, is not new borrowing, still creates a certain level of anxiety in the minds of the average St. Lucian. So, Madam President, we may need to be more prepared or more empathetic to anyone who may have an issue or who may become suspicious of something that, of something that is a norm. And Madam President, that is why I would like to appeal to the government to ensure that their practices, because you're not a government for when you get elected, you're expected to serve a term of 5 years. So if for 4 years, 4.5 years, you have developed a habit that has created a certain level of anxiety among the people, on the day that you come to do something that is not exactly what you've done before, it obviously makes people uncomfortable when they need not be. And we have, Madam President, in the last few weeks in the St. Lucian Palace, been introduced to a new term. And that's why I'm using this context. I've been hearing a new term, Madam President, Madipwete. It's as if St. Lucians have gotten to a point where every sitting of the House, which normally occurs on a Tuesday, is Madipwete. And they basically expect, okay, the government is going to come back to borrow again. And Madipwete, of course, would, in English, would be considered a Tuesday, borrowing Tuesday. And so, while the last sitting was not necessarily a sitting where there was new borrowing, the government has to be cognizant of the fact that the average St. Lucian, including the opposition, is always wary when that term borrowing comes up. So, I will not attempt to propagate any, conspiracy theory about what is obviously not new borrowing, but I will say to the government that should there have been any of that suspicion or any of that discomfort to our populace, it may very well be because of the habit that the government had developed prior to this this borrowing. So I will say, Madam President, based on what was outlined under Section 63(1), that the borrowing is supposed to be to deal with capital and current expenditure. But it would be helpful if the leader of government business would have enlightened us a little bit more on what particular capital expenditure projects this is going to address. Now, while I know that the arguments may be raised that, oh, it's in the budget, well, the budget is presented at a certain time of the year. But when you come back to the Parliament to approve borrowing for specific projects that may or may not be in the budget, the onus is on the government to explain to the House. We come to this House, and when the opposition asks questions about why the government is doing what it's doing, sometimes, Madam President, we behave as if we're not supposed to ask. The onus is not on the average St. Lucian or the opposition. The onus is on the government to explain to the House what will be done, what are the projects, what are the initiatives that will be done or will be undertaken with the borrowing. I did, to her credit, listen to the leader of government business mention under recurrent expenditure, salaries and so on, which we know, but particularly with capital expenditure, I think it was an opportune time for the government to give some detail and explanation on that specific area. And when these things are done, Madam President, there is no room for, or little room for speculation. So I will then ask, what are the projects? Are they campaign projects? We know we're in election year. We have all kinds of roads and so on being built. Or could the government have pointed out from the estimates or from whatever source, these are the projects based on what we're coming to deal with the overdraft that we'll be embarking upon. And so it leaves very little room for what I'm actually doing today. So, Madam President, as I said, I was going to be very brief. I believe that when the government takes that approach, which is very responsible and transparent, there leaves very little room or opportunity for the opposition, civil society, and the average St. Lucian to become suspicious and to come up with terms like Madi Poiti, to make it seem or to appear that all the government does is borrow. So I think the government can help itself, it can help the Parliament, it can help all of us avoid that unnecessary situation. So I hope that in future it will be considered, and once again, that when recommendations like these are made, just because it's coming from the opposition, that merit will be seen in it, and the government will take heed and put it into practice. Thank you, Madam President.
Honorable Leader of Government Business. No lights are on.
Madam President, I wish to just reiterate or restate that this is just a re-establish that what we are doing here, what this resolution is seeking to do, is to re-establish an already existing overdraft that has come to full term, to the end of its term, and under the new Finance Act, we are renewing the overdraft facility, which is really a financial requirement, Madam President. We have stated that it can be used in a case where the government need funding for salaries or any such expenditure. It is not, we are not allocating an overdraft amount to any particular project at this time, because it is an overdraft facility that is required to be set up by the Department of Finance. In case it becomes necessary for government to access additional financing for recurrent or capital expenditure. But in this case, we are saying it may well be, as a result of the COVID pandemic, it most likely may be necessary to cover salaries for our public workers. Madam President, I believe at this point, this was the only real question asked, and I submit this resolution for consideration by this Honorable House.
Senators, the question is that Parliament authorize the Minister for Finance to borrow from commercial banks sums not exceeding $85 million as follows. A. Royal Bank of Trinidad and Tobago, $4,400,000. B. Royal Bank of Canada, EC $5,600,000. C. First Caribbean International Bank, EC $8 million. D. Republic Bank, EC Limited, EC $12 million. E. First National Bank of St. Lucia Limited, EC $5 million. And F. Bank of St. Lucia, EC $50 million. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Bills. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the first reading of a bill shortly entitled Economic Substance Amendment.
Economic Substance Amendment.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move for the suspension of Standing Order number 49-2 to allow the bill to go through its remaining stages at this sitting.
Senators, the question is that Standing Order number 49-2 be suspended to allow the Honorable Leader of Government Business to proceed with the remaining stages of the bill at this sitting. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Leave is granted. Proceed, Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I beg to move the second reading of a bill shortly entitled Economic Substance Amendment. Madam President, sorry, Madam President. Madam President, the bill, Economic Substance Amendment Act, under consideration of this Honorable House today. The purpose of the bill, Madam President, is to amend the Economic Substance Act number 33 of 2019 to improve the monitoring and compliance framework of the Act to allow for better oversight of entities operating in the financial services sector and to strengthen the economic substance requirements within our jurisdiction. Madam President, we are a signatory to numerous international agreements and conventions for the reduction and elimination of tax evasion and avoidance. Consequently, Madam President, in 2019, we passed the Economic Substance Act to improve good governance in tax matters and maintain our rating as a compliant nation in the international financial community. We also anticipated that the enactment of the Act would be sufficient to enable St. Lucia to be removed from the EU, the European Union's Annex II, the Grey List. However, in consultation with our international partners and upon review of the Act, it became apparent that there was a need to strengthen the monitoring requirements for the purpose of satisfying St. Lucia's commitments to organizations such as the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, and the European Union, the EU, and to bring the Act closer to EU and OECD standards in order to avoid the possibility of being placed on the blacklist. Madam President, St. Lucia's foreign source income exemption, which enables all local companies earning foreign source income, including the international business companies, the IBCs, to have this income exempt from taxation, is seen by the EU as a contribution of ring fencing. Further to that, Madam President, the EU indicated that the legislation needed to be amended to ensure, one, that an intellectual property income benefiting from the foreign income tax exemption be subject to what is referred to as the Nexus Approach. The Nexus Approach, Madam President, attributes a benefit to the proportion of expenses that are directly related to or incurred in the creation of the intellectual property income. Two, the EU also preferred the term trademarks be removed from the definition of intellectual property. Madam President, the EU believes that this would ensure that income which did not benefit from the related expenses would gain an advantage by the exemption from taxation under St. Lucia's territorial tax regime. In light of that, Madam President, this bill seeks to amend the Act to delete and replace the definitions for high-risk intellectual property company, holding company, intellectual property asset, and pure equity holding company, and also to amend the definition of relevant sector. With respect to high-risk intellectual property company, the term is redefined in the bill to exclude an intellectual property company that owns an intellectual property asset and does not carry out marketing and branding as part of its core income-generating activity in St. Lucia. This is a salient requirement given that the EU has requested that the reference to a trademark be removed from the definition of an intellectual property asset, and therefore everything associated with a trademark has to be removed from other definitions in the Act. Hence the removal of the reference to marketing and branding in the definition of high-risk intellectual property company. The term holding company is redefined to place the focus on a company that holds assets, from which income in the form of interest, rent, and royalties are derived, in accordance with the standards of the OECD, to remove the reference to a company having a controlling interest in other companies or assets, and to remove the reference to a pure equity holding. The latter is needed because a holding company and a pure equity holding company should be separate classifications, since the same requirements do not apply. Further, a pure equity holding company does not have to file an economic substance return. In this case, in the case of an intellectual property asset, the term is redefined to state definitively what an intellectual property asset actually is, as opposed to what it includes, and also to broaden the definition of the term to encompass an intangible asset that is non-obvious, useful, or novel, and other similar intangible assets that are functionally equivalent to a patent. With respect to a pure equity holding company, the term is redefined in paragraph A of the definition to remove the reference to holds the majority of voting shares and replace with holds voting shares. So we remove the A. This is essentially important since the reference to majority of the voting rights may potentially exclude companies which should be covered by the Act based on the OECD standards, which are concerned with the type of income that the company generates and not its shares of voting rights. The bill amends Section 8 of the Act to provide that an application for a warrant is required to enter premises for the purpose of enforcing a notice under the new Section 11A. Section 11 of the Act is amended in the bill to modify the requirements for adequate economic substance with respect to a relevant entity, such that the relevant entity must have adequate economic substance for each year of income in which it operates or carries out activities in a relevant sector, as opposed to only when it derives income. The bill further amends Section 11 of the Act by introducing new subsections that further clarify and introduce additional conditions for the economic substance requirements to be satisfied. The Act is amended in the bill to allow the competent authority to enter the premises of a relevant entity with the consent of the relevant entity to assess whether or not the information kept by the relevant entity satisfies the economic substance requirement without the need for a warrant. Another amendment that the bill makes to the Act is to change the aspects of core income generating activities in the case of a relevant entity with income from holding intangible assets for which the relevant entity is required to provide proof to the competent authority. In addition, Madam President, the bill makes it an amendment to the Act to provide a grace period of 12 months for filing an economic substance return for a relevant entity and an exempted entity under Section 3 of the Act. The bill further seeks to amend the Act to make it an offense for a relevant entity to provide false information to the competent authority. The new Schedule 2 that provides the formula to be used in determining whether an intellectual property company qualifies for an exemption on income under Section 11(7) of the Act is added to the Act under the bill. As a consequence of the insertion of a new Schedule 2, the reference to Schedule is deleted and replaced with a reference to Schedule 1. Madam President, I believe I have explained the elements of this bill quite extensively. It is the Act quite extensively. This amendment bill is quite interesting, and it is hoped that with the passage of this bill, we are going to avoid being placed on the blacklist. I submit this bill, Madam President, for approval of my fellow senators in this House.
Senators, the question is that the Economic Substance Amendment Bill be read a second time. Senator Thomas Francis.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Season's greetings to you, Madam President, and to everyone present in this honorable chamber, as well as special greetings to all the citizens of St. Lucia. Madam President, from my understanding, the government has very little choice on the implementation or the enactment of these legislative changes, as the EU has been pressuring governments to ensure, and especially pressuring our government to ensure that IBCs within St. Lucia are operating in an economic substantial way. Madam President, however, based on consultation, it is my understanding that a number of IBCs in St. Lucia may not necessarily have the financial wherewithal to be able to undertake the reforms, the changes, the amendments that are required to ensure full compliance with the new requirements. And we may very well see some of them ceasing to operate in St. Lucia as a result of such costs, as I said, costs that can result in huge losses to their operations. Madam President, I just want to state also that it is always mind-boggling when one has to reflect on how EU operates in terms of the expectation from jurisdictions like ours. there isn't a level playing field in the prescriptions that are meted out to small islands like ourselves. I do not support any jurisdiction or any entity breaking any laws. However, it begs the question as to how the EU, the OECD, and the like continue to prescribe changes and continue to apply belts and braces in terms of legislation that must be complied with at huge cost to small islands when the same do not apply for the US, the same doesn't apply to Europe. It begs the question, Madam President. But having said so, we have no choice. We really have no choice, and if we have to avoid blacklisting, as mentioned before, we must comply. But I'm looking forward to the day when there will be a level playing field, when there will be more equity in the way those prescriptions are dished out globally. Madam President, I take this opportunity through you to extend greetings to the citizens of our beloved country on the occasion of this festive season. This is a season, Madam President, when we celebrate the birth of Christ. And traditionally, we choose to celebrate by sharing gifts, decorating our homes, visiting friends and family. We also choose to do so by socializing. We use the time to reflect on life, to be generous to our community members, and to take time as well to show appreciation. Madam President, in terms of appreciation, I would like to take this opportunity, therefore, to extend appreciation to persons who have worked tirelessly and selflessly during this year to ensure that the health and lives of our citizens were preserved and sustained. The leadership of this country, both public and private, civil society, religious and community leaders inter alia. Many thanks to the men and women in the police force, Madam President, and also to those who are working in the fire service, whose bravery and daily sacrifices help to ensure the security and safety of our nation. Our many heroes as well, Madam President, on the front line, whose commitment, courage, and dedication ensured our safety and preservation of our lives during the year. The many volunteers, Madam President, in our country who gave up their time to better the lives of their fellow citizens. Special thanks also to the parents, many parents, Madam President, who have been able to attend to the needs of their family amidst all the prevailing challenges, and for the citizens in general who have ensured that they observe all the protocols to ensure the safety of all of us. Immense thanks to you, Madam President, to fellow senators, the staff of Parliament, and all other partners for the service rendered during the year to ensure effectiveness of our parliamentary system during the year. In terms of reflection, Madam President, the struggles across the board are very, very real. The struggles that our people feel, the struggles that our citizens go through, especially the struggles they've been going through since the pandemic, it's extremely real. People are in grief. They are frazzled, Madam President. They are stressed, they are anxious, they are agitated, they are depressed and distressed, weary and lonely. In this environment, hopelessness abounds, Madam President. The festive season is a huge contradiction with people's genuine feelings. People traditionally have looked forward to the festive season. They've enjoyed the season. They look forward, Madam President, but there's a contradiction this year. People are feeling pain, but they have to try as they may to see how they can celebrate Christmas. COVID-19 protocols require that we celebrate Christmas differently in terms of how we socialize, attend religious activities, and community activities. In the midst of tremendous uncertainty as to where we are heading in 2020.
Senator,
Yes,
I draw to your attention Order 37-1
yes, Madam President.
and ask that you show me the relevance of your present submission to the motion at hand, to the bill rather at hand.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Madam President, I am ending. I just thought since I was on my feet, I could just take this opportunity to extend some greetings. And I am nearly there, Madam President, so I just have just a few more lines. So I crave your indulgence and I thank you profoundly. Madam President, I was saying, in the midst of tremendous uncertainty as to where we are heading in 2020, I implore every citizen to join me in the determination to keep faith and hope alive. Indeed, Pope Francis, in a recent message, said that Christmas season provides a reason for hope amid the difficulties of the coronavirus pandemic. In Jesus, we can have that confidence that all will be well. God continues to work for his children even in the midst of the most severe challenges. With confident expectation and abiding faith, we all will see and enjoy God's faithfulness. Therefore, for this Christmas, whatever our faith, let us come together, confident and united in the values that we share, the values of caring, sharing, and forgiving. If I may also quote Pope Francis, Madam, if you have something dark in your soul, ask the Lord for forgiveness. Christmas is a great opportunity to cleanse the soul. Madam President, I would like to remind and implore fellow citizens to be vigilant and comply fully with the health protocols to ensure safety during the season and beyond. Let us not let our guard down. As to a safe and peaceful Christmas, and let us look beyond the dark clouds of 2020 and welcome the dawn of a brighter and better new year for which we must be hopeful. I thank you, Madam President.
Senators, the question is that the Economic Substance Amendment Bill be read a second time. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
An act to amend the Economic Substance Act number 33 of 2019.
We'll take it clause by clause. Clause 2.
Interpretation.
Clause 2 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 3.
Amendment of Section 2.
Clause 3 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 4.
Amendment of Section 8.
Clause 4 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 5.
Amendment of Section 11.
Clause 5 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 6.
Insertion of new Section 11A.
Clause 6 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 7.
Amendment of Section 12.
Clause 7 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 8.
Amendment of Section 13.
Clause 8 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 9.
Insertion of a new Section 18A.
Clause 9 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 10.
Amendment of Section 23.
Clause 10 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 11.
Substitution of the schedule.
Clause 11 stands part of the bill. Aye. Clause 12.
Insertion of new Schedule 2.
Clause 12 stands part of the bill. Clause 1.
Short title.
Clause 1 stands part of the bill. Senators, the question is that the committee rise and the bill be reported. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Senators, I beg to report that Economic Substance Amendment Bill went through committee stage without amendment. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, I move that the report of the committee be adopted and the bill be read a third time and passed.
Senators, the question is that the report of the committee be adopted and that the Economic Substance Amendment Bill be read a third time and passed. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it.
Be it enacted by the Queen's Most Excellent Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the House of Assembly and the Senate of St. Lucia, and by the authority of the same, as follows. This Act may be cited as the Economic Substance Amendment Act 2020.
Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Madam President, if I can just crave your indulgence before we adjourn this Honorable House to say a few words, Madam President. Thank you.
If it's granted.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I wish to thank yourself, my fellow senators, the staff of the Senate, the police officers, all our workers who sometimes come and watch us in this house pass legislation, the staff of AG's chambers who work tirelessly to ensure that the legislation, the drafted legislation, is correct and that it reaches us as soon as possible so that we can attend to the government of business. I wish to thank them, Madam President. Madam President, I wish to thank all of those citizens who came on board from the onset of COVID-19, the staff of the Ministry of Health, all the workers in the healthcare sector. I wish to thank them for their perseverance, their hard work, their time, their patience, tolerance throughout this entire pandemic. Madam President, I say a special thanks to my former permanent secretary, who was in the forefront when this pandemic hit, but has now retired and has passed on the baton to the new permanent secretary, who has, of course, continued with the struggle of COVID-19. Madam President, I wish to thank all the frontline workers who fell in step as soon as COVID-19 struck this country. And we have thanked the frontline workers, we continue to thank them, but since COVID-19 is still on and they are still the champions, we wish to continue to thank them for their hard work. I wish to take this opportunity, Madam President, to thank all our St. Lucian people here and abroad for their assistance during those trying times, and for those who are here with us for following the protocols. And I wish them a brighter and more prosperous New Year. Thank you, Madam President, for your indulgence. With this said, Madam President, I move that the House stand adjourned. Sign it down.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to thank the staff of GIS for putting up with the long hours and for the usual excellent broadcast, our Sergeant at Arms and the police for their good service and continuous protection, to the Parliament staff for their hard work, warm support throughout sittings, especially Lydia and Jennifer for keeping the chamber sparkling. I wish you, Senators, a very safe and Merry Christmas, and to St. Lucia, a Merry Christmas, a new year full of hope and opportunity. Senators, the question is that this House do stand adjourned sine die. I now put the question. As many as are of that opinion, say aye. Aye. As many as are of a contrary opinion, say no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Sitting adjourned.